transitioning to our final game preview here, we're going to learn a lot about the Duke Blue Devils when they take on the reigning ACC champion Clemson on Labor Day at 8 p.m. on Monday in Wallace Wade.
All right, I got two things for you, Lewis, right off the top. So what I first want to ask, because this game's being played Monday night in prime time on Labor Day, how much do you think the line is going to move in Clemson's favor between now and kickoff on Monday night?
I mean, what is it?
I think everyone's going to be trying to recoup their losses over the weekend.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Do you know what the line is right now?
The last I checked, it was 12. I will go ahead and look again. We're going to get research on this.
That's where it's been, like right around
13
that kind of like
right now is what I'm seeing.
So, I mean, I think that line's going to increase as the weekend goes on because I think that's fair. It doesn't. That you had one thing. Let me hear your second thing before I get into this. Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to deny even saying this a week from now. I'm just going to preface that. Are you prepared to live in a world where Riley Leonard is the Triangle's top quarterback?
The Riley Leonard hype train is full steam ahead, Mark Bergin. Full steam ahead.
Like, as a UNC fan, can you take that, Lewis? If they pull off the upset in all seriousness, it's not likely. Duke last beat Clemson in 2004. But that stage and that opportunity is there. Again, a week from now, I'm going to deny ever saying this, but
no, I think
I just broke your brain a little bit.
No. I think it's fair because, like, to me, right, the ACC this year has a lot of really good quarterbacks, and I think that Riley Leonard is, as a UNC alum aside, I genuinely think Riley Leonard is one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC and one of the better quarterbacks in the country and deserves more respect and deserves more credit. Primarily because last year, what we saw from him as a full starter for the first time in his career, he was great. He did a really good job of working within the offense and making something happen from nothing. And then over the offseason, he's continued to work on his growth. There was a lot of talk that the entire offense is just feeling better because it's the second year under their system. So I feel really good about Riley Leonard's chances. And I do think so much of what we love the dramatics of college football, of all football in general, right? I think that's when you have when each team plays one game every week, it's so much more dramatic. There are so many more fun storylines to follow. And I genuinely believe that if Duke comes out here, if they beat Clemson, which I think, I mean, like Clemson's a 13-point favorite for a reason, but I think Duke is not getting enough credit as they should. Even if they just cover the spread and keep it a tight game against Clemson, I think the amount of attention that will go on Riley Leonard, the amount that we will see his national stock rise, I think it'll be incredibly impressive. And I am very excited for this game for that one of many reasons why.
Can you keep it close? Duke returns 17 starters. Now, the Blue Devils have a new defensive coordinator as well, and Tyler Santucci. So can you keep that Clemson offense in check, led by Cade Klubnik? And then they're bringing over Garrett Riley, Lincoln Riley's younger brother, to be the new offensive coordinator there, taking over for DJ Ugalele, who's now, I believe, at Oregon State, is a transfer now. So it's Cade Klubnik's team. Shipley in the backfield is going to be tough to slow down too, but Clemson's offense is what's hamstrung this team. Maybe not, say, in the ACC, but in these big-time national games where you're going up against, say, other conferences. And it's why Clemson's been down the last few years, as the offense hasn't been what it needs to be. Now, defensively, it's like you got 4 players on the ACC all preseason team. Clemson's defense is always stout. Can you keep it close? Can you cover? And if you're Duke, can you prove that last season's 9-4 team wasn't a fluke? And look, I'm as bullish on Mike Elko as there is, because look, he gets a contract extension through the 2029 season. Duke's already saying, we don't want another school to poach him. We like what he's building in Durham. This is a great opportunity for Duke on Monday night. If you can at least keep it close. No, there's no moral victories in football, but that would be a moral win for the Duke Blue Devils come Monday night.
Well, that's part of it too, is that Duke is not, I think they have transcended the moral victory plane, right? Duke is more about results right now. Last year was about moral victories in a lot of different ways for Duke.
When you hadn't won an ACC game and Mike Elko came in last year and it's like they had a 13-game ACC losing streak, Lewis.
Yeah, it was bad. It was very bad. But they have transcended that. They've moved past that. And so now they're about taking those next steps. And, it's so tough because the storyline, I feel like, you've heard the same storyline over and over and over again about Duke all offseason. But it is the story. It's the schedule is so much harder. What can you do now? How can you take this next step as a program? And I think you do that by competing against Clemson. I'm not really concerned. So I think to me, Duke's defense is going to improve. And I think that their defensive line that is the experience in Duke's team. They have a lot of depth as well in the secondary. Losing Shaka Hayward is really tough. Linebacker, went in the NFL draft, undrafted free agent, I believe. So what happens next? But I will say that offense, I think, is going to be like, that is what's going to be helping to keep them in the game against Clemson if that offense succeeds. If Riley Leonard does well, if Jalen Calhoun and Jordan Moore, two of the better receivers in the ACC, continue to grow, that'll be interesting for me. Another thing from a statistics perspective, right? Because this is Cade Klubnik's first full season as the starter, and it's a new offense. And while he was solid in his reps last year, he a little up and down in some ways when he stepped in for DJU.
For someone who was the number 2 quarterback in his recruiting class too, so he has high expectations, Lewis.
Exactly. So my question is, and another one of those storylines that's followed Duke around all offseason is, what does the defense continue to be big play oriented? Does it get turnovers? Duke had the number 2 best turnover margin last year, plus 14. I want to say is what they were last year. And what makes repeating that difficult is just statistically speaking. We talk about the analytics in football and blah, blah, blah. But when you look at the numbers, turnovers are so incredibly difficult to replicate. You have turnovers are just kind of one of those things where it's like, all right, let's see what happens. You don't really have, you can practice for turnovers, but you can't draw up a play for a turnover. So can they take a Clemson offense that may be struggling out the gate a little bit, and can they force some turnovers there? I think that's going to be big for the Blue Devils.
I'm going to go back to the line of scrimmage, Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
If you're Dwayne Carter, player who's represented Duke at the ACC kickoff event in advance of the season, it's your senior year.
First team all ACC.
You have to establish yourself early in this game and put it on tape to where Clemson's got 4 returning starters on its offensive line. None of those were preseason all ACC selections. If you're Dwayne Carter and company up front, it's going to start with him and the onus in establishing that early. That to me is what I'm going to look at the line of scrimmage. You want to make Cade Klubnik struggle early on. There's no faster way to a quarterback than a straight line. A gap, B gap. Can I cause penetration, disruption in the opposing offense's backfield? That's what I'm looking for early on, first and second quarter from Duke's standpoint. And look, if he balls out, if he shows out, he's then putting that on tape to say, hey, the rest of America, you've got to double and triple team me. And he's able to do that and to play well against the best of the best in this conference. That bodes well for his NFL future as well.
Yeah. And, look at Clemson. The way I just kind of view it is, you want to put Klubnik in a position where he's stressing and he's showing his age. And the only way they can beat you is by handing the ball off to Will Shipley, which, that still could beat you. But it's just, you want to try and make them one-dimensional and throw off this high octane or supposedly high octane offense early on.
What I get nervous about is you revert to that and Clemson still beating you if you're stacking, say, 8-9 guys in the box, Lewis.
Yeah, no, that's fair.